Names, doctors, room numbers. I kind of have a photographic memory.
Seriously, the whole board?
Welcome to Decoding TV's coverage of the Pitt Season 2, Episode 8. I'm David Chen here with Patrick Klepek. Before we get to a conversation about this week's episode, I did want to read an email from somebody who listened to last week's conversation. This one comes in from Alicia. So what's going on in the Pitt right now is pretty big. There is a cyber attack that is causing the Pitt to take all of their systems offline. Alicia M. writes into decodingtv@gmail.com. Hey, decoders. I wanted to share that last spring, my brother was a patient at a hospital that had fallen victim of a ransomware cyber attack that led to the hospital going fully offline. My mother, his caregiver, said that although there was definitely some inconvenience with not being able to schedule out procedures and follow-up appointments during that time, she felt that his overall day-to-day care was better. Working offline forced some of the staff that was prone to just referring to the electronic charts to engage more directly with my mother, who could share the specifics of my brother's condition and the nuances of his individual health needs. This happened in Ohio of last year, but I'm assuming the Pitt was probably more likely influenced by a similar attack in St. Louis the year before that. And then here, Alicia links to the CNN article entitled Ransomware Attack Triggers System-Wide Tech Outage at Large Network of Medical Centers. This was from the Kettering, Ohio medical system, which employs more than 1,800 doctors and serves a big chunk of Ohio, had a cyber attack that triggered a system-wide technology outage at a network of over a dozen medical centers, causing cancellation of elective inpatient and outpatient procedures, according to a statement from the health network and ransom note viewed by CNN, end quote. So that strikes me as very plausible, that like what's going on in the show is a network of hospitals is being taken out. This thing happened in Ohio in May of 2025. And so likely inspired what's going on in the Pitt this season. Thank you so much, Felicia, for writing into us at decodingtv@gmail.com. We really appreciate it anytime people can share their expertise from the real world. And yeah, Patrick, who'd have thought? Maybe a cyber attack can make your medical care even better sometimes. I wouldn't recommend it as a standard practice.
Yes, please.
Anyway, let's get to the episode. Season 2, Episode 8, covering the hour of 2 p.m. In this episode, the Pitt is reeling from the revelation that not only is Westbridge impacted by a cyber attack, their own systems are going to shut down too as a precautionary measure. Robbie is super pissed at Dr. Al-Hashimi for not keeping him more informed, but let's be honest, she's probably just doing the best that she could. We learned that they could shut down all the systems for up to 24 hours. But fortunately, Dr. Kwan has a photographic memory and can help them recreate the big board that they had. I'm just glad that Dr. Kwan, very convenient, first of all, and I'm just glad that Dr. Kwan has something to do because was really worried about her for a little while. Anyway, let's talk about the main cases this episode. I would say the sort of primary case is involving Howard Knox, who is 52 years old and weighs over 400 pounds, suffering from abdominal pain and fever with a high blood pressure of 152/90. So the idea is that Howard is obese, and as a result, it's challenging for him to be treated because of a variety of different vectors of what's going on in the medical system. For example, they can't even lay him down to weigh him to see if he can fit on the CT machine. So they needed to intubate him first, and that requires all this preparation. And you see like multiple doctors expend energy to kind of make sure he's comfortable, that he can communicate and so forth. Meanwhile, Ogilvy represents the dark side of medicine, which is not very kind to him at all and is pretty nasty and not very sympathetic or understanding. But after extensive work, they finally figure out that he is, in fact, too heavy for their CT machine, so he needs to go to another hospital. But yeah, this case occupies a significant portion of the episode, and I would say it's very compelling. I would say it's very pulpity, which is our term for subplots that are very preachy, because it is a fact that overweight people are treated relatively poorly in the medical system. Patrick Klepek, what was your reaction to the case of Howard Knox?
Yeah, like the actual case felt pretty, not a ton to it necessarily.
Right.
It
like we don't even really find out what his
much
deal
about
was.
him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this episode in general sort of felt like a little bit spinning our wheels, moving things forward so that we can get to some more dramatic elements in the back half of the season. Doesn't make it uninteresting television, but I think over the totality of a season, I think you will look back. This would be the kind of episode that you could skip over or like might forget what happened over the course of it. But it
really, I'll just say that I thought that they gave Howard Knox one of the most sympathetic depictions possible. Like
they did. No. That's but it's. I think they do a similar thing here to the sexual assault victim. I mean that overlaps on this episode, but was one of the the primary case in the previous episode in which it's a unique circumstance with a unique approach, and so how do they go about just solving the core problem or addressing what's in front of them? So a lot of like what happens, like there's not a lot of dramatic arc to Howard Knox and like why he's here and why he's and like what's going to happen. I don't think we'll even see this character again. I don't think we'll get any resolution to their case. It's more like, do you want to see process? And like that is the Pitt can get a lot of interesting work out of the process. And I think this one, though lacking dramatic heft, was like very interesting process of just how are they going to figure out like just the simple thing, like how much does he weigh so they can figure out what is the next step. And just watching that play out is they make like we talk a lot about in Vince Gilligan's work, Pluribus, Breaking Bad, right? Like makes process dramatically interesting. And that also happens in a very stylistically different way, but makes just watching a thing occur that you otherwise could be reading a Wikipedia entry about really fascinating to watch. And so then you combine that with the Pitts, like we're going to treat everybody with like the greatest dignity
and care and
is that's what the Pitt does. And so I found the process itself fascinating, even if I may forget Howard Knox I feel like I will like it's almost like bits of trivia of like how how do they do stuff like that? I learn a little bit more about a hospital, but I don't know that I'm going to remember Howard Knox.
Well, I'll just say I might remember Howard Knox because I think they gave him, like I said, a very sympathetic storyline.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a person that just this person experienced multiple challenges. He said he got like injured in a car accident, and as a result, you can imagine if you get really badly injured, you can't exercise as much. You might turn to food as a way of comforting yourself, and then like that has all these cascading impacts on his life. Like he has no family that he speaks with, and is
just weight gain is not as singular as a person being lazy. And in an era of Ozempic and other ways that individuals are wrestling with, dealing with, responding to whatever they perceive or are told by their doctor is weight that should be addressed. It is, in fact, if you talk to most people that like find themselves in like maybe not conditions as extreme as Howard Knox, but like everything in between, it's often like very rarely the case that it's just somebody who's like, boy, I just love to eat food. Like
I just love cakes and I don't care about the results. Like
bodies,
it's usually
bodies
like
are complicated,
right?
And I think
and
that's part of
GLP-1s come up in this plotline too, and he says like he can't afford them because they have been pretty expensive for a while, and so I think that they do a good job of making him out to be very sympathetic, and I think it's Whitaker that says to him, "Hey, we're still trying to contact your sister," and I'm like, I wonder if they're ever going to get in touch with his sister. I hope they do. Of course, we might never hear from Howard Knox again for the rest of the show, but like, anyway,
I know that they in this case they use Ogilvy as is it Ogilvy or Ogilvy? Ogilvy. Is sort of set up as the kind of villain is the wrong term, but like the foil.
No, he's the villain. I think he's the villain.
This episode, you just like hate. Anyway, I do wonder, like every, from a different point of view, like I think he's taking a wrong, like bedside manner attacked, but like over the course of the season, we have seen this is sort of a guy that looks at everything kind of analytically and as though I'm like, I imagine when Ogilvy walks into a room, like he's scanning it like he's the Terminator. And like, it's a puzzle, it's a problem to be solved as opposed to a person to be treated. And you can still be incredibly good at medicine and not have any of the bedside manner, and how you choose to address the situation may seem, lacking like respect or dignity, but is still someone. I just wonder where it feels like that's going to be the arc for him. This this season is this is how he has traditionally approached problems, but like that's the difference between being in a classroom and like being in the field. And I just wonder where that's. I wonder where that's going. And it felt like this was the most crystallized. Like finally, people instead of rolling their eyes are like pushing back just, like, on his behavior.
Confronting him on it, right? Like,
and what does that mean? What does he do with that going forward? I find to be interesting because if you were to ask me, just like in the world, are there more the characters we've seen in the Pit? Are there more Ogilvies? I feel like it's more Ogilvies, and that's just I'm just spitballing, but like. Those kinds of personalities, I suggest, are probably more predominant in the world of medicine than not.
I don't know if I agree with that. I would say there's a lot of Ogilvies, but I don't know if they're like the majority. I agree. I agree.
There's a lot of them, and they're not represented in the Pit, except for like
they're
one
underrepresented
guy.
In the show. I think that is fair to say. I think
the Pit like presupposes everyone also has like a psych degree and like is super empathetic and like and I just feel like that ratio is a little bit off, which it's fine. It makes for more. I'm here for the emotions, but I think that's why it makes it so interesting. Why put a character like that in there? And I want to see how that pans out.
Right, and how much character growth can someone experience in one day, which is basically how much the show takes place over the course of, right?
Like, throw that out, David. Like this is a show that does a year of character growth in a day, and you're
like
gonna
6
like
hours worth of time.
Yep, you're gonna like it.
All right. There is the continuing story of Harlow, the deaf woman, who finally gets an interpreter, and Santos is able to render aid in the form of antacid and a trigger point injection. Turns out she didn't need a CT at all, and it would have been a very kind of I don't know about invasive, but certainly a costly and unneeded test for her. Gotta say, a little bit disappointed by this subplot. Like, I thought this was going somewhere beyond just kind of a pulpity lecture about accessibility in hospitals. But it doesn't. I don't know if Harlow is going to become another character later, but it just feels like that was the whole point of the Harlow character. Was sometimes people who are disabled or are differently abled don't get the care they need. It's like, okay, like. Fine, but not a very compelling subplot. Patrick, any thoughts?
No, same. If why not wrap this up a whole lot earlier? If this is well, it's a
lot of buildup. So.
Yeah, so that makes me feel like there's got to be something else going on here, because otherwise, this would have like the totality of the plot for this case. Is the kind of one that would normally be, we got to give somebody something to do for an episode. So like the audience gets to see them for a moment, but we're setting them up for something else. And it didn't make, I found it, pretty disappointing if that's where we end up.
But let's see. She hasn't left the hospital yet, so maybe she has more stuff to do next week. We get another check-in with Roxy Handler, the woman who is in hospice, has a fracture in her ankle, is in a boot now, and is requesting more pain medication, even though she's already on some, and they are worried that it could impact her ability to survive. There is a kind of heartbreaking scene where her parents arrive, and she wants her kids to be taken away. And Patrick, I please let me know if this is like getting too personal, because I know you've dealt with like parental death in your family, but like, I don't know how I felt about the whole how Roxy's handling this, because I think. The implication, as far as I can tell, is she doesn't want her kids to be there when she dies. That's kind of the implication. And that felt weird to me. Like, I don't know what people think about this, because I feel like the kids are there because they want to be there for their parent. And I understand the parent wants to save the child, like spare them from witnessing them dying and potentially being traumatized by that. But I don't know, man. Like, I feel like if I was at the hospital and my mom sent me away for ice cream and then she died while I was getting ice cream, like that would also be traumatizing. Like what did you make of how Roxy handled the situation with her children?
I didn't interpret that she is hoping to sort of die off screen from her children as much as she just wants some goddamn space. I think
that could be it as well. But like my sense is that what I said is possible.
I think
as
she
to what
feels.
wants,
I think she feels suffocated, like having gone through, loss personally, and been around others who experienced loss. It's challenging because it is obviously nice when people check on how you are and want to help, but that can also be too much, and that's a very difficult line to walk, because if it was your significant other or your parent, especially if you're a kid, like, of course you would want to be present, and that would feel like a checklist of things to do. What do you need, Mom? I want to be here, like, while you go through this process. And I think this woman is going through a very complicated acceptance of where she is arriving at, and I think that can make some of the actions feel slightly irrational, and also what she wants may be different than what everybody else wants from this particular moment. And there may be no way of actually satisfying everybody in that. She may want some peace, and maybe in that peace, she ends up passing, and in a way robs her family of a sense of closure in those final moments. But there's no perfect way to die. And I think that's, I think that's ultimately where this is going is there's no like easy way to do this in which everyone feels, and happy is not the word, but like closure, full closure,
or like their feelings were accounted for,
because you just can't. It's just not. It's just not the way. It's just not the way it works.
Yeah, and on some level, she kind of is optimizing for what her needs are, right? Like she wants to optimize for what her needs are, and that's very understandable given the.
It's her final moments, right?
Yes.
Like absent there being anything on the other
shouldn't
side.
You get to dictate who you want to be around in your final moments, right? Like that's reasonable.
I think it can be very easy to look at the actions of the living, or who will continue living, from the actions of the person who's experienced, like heading towards their final moments. That there can be a feeling of selfishness of like, but I think she wants it on her terms, and absent bringing myself into it, I think that's probably what should be respected. Is just she should be able to go out on her terms in what is comfortable for her, and everyone else just kind of has to deal with whatever that is, and however you feel about it, however fair or selfish you might feel about that. She should be the one dictating those final moments.
I agree, and I think what you're saying kind of brings up is that there's often a conflict between how people think a dying person should behave, and what they actually want, right? Like we think of dying people as like, oh, you want to be surrounded by your family in an environment that you're familiar with, and it's like, what if they don't want that?
Yep,
right.
maybe.
That's what this plotline is trying to ask people to consider. Is like, what if they don't want what you think they want, or what if it doesn't look like what you think it should look like? Like, are you ready to respect that? And
when it's also it's the difference between how we talk about death and the realities of death.
Yes.
Right? Like every time a celebrity dies and there's the statement that says they were surrounded by friends and family, who fucking knows? Maybe maybe that's true. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was different. Maybe it was more complicated than that. It was probably more complicated than that. It's rarely as simple as like a room of loved ones while you hear.
Did they want all those people there? Like
right, but like. It's part of the performance of how we talk about a passing. Like, let's say it was messy, and this person didn't want, like, you're still going to put out the public statement that says they were surrounded by friends and family. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you're not putting out the one that's like, actually, there was a lot of screaming and crying involved, and feelings were hurt as this person. You know what I mean? So I do think where this arc is going is about the hurt and the potentially hurt feelings, the complicated feelings. Whose priority is there on, and I will be curious if she chooses to like draw a line on this, has to be like much more explicit about what she wants. Like whose side how does the death doula, like if she says like, I want to be alone, I think these medications are going to take me out, I don't want anyone else here, does the death doula just figure that out? You know what I mean? That is
right.
That's a lot. So I'm looking forward to crying a lot, I guess, when that thing resolves.
Dr. Robbie also brings up the doctrine of double effect. I don't know if you heard of this before, but it was the first time I had heard of it.
Are you familiar with the doctrine of double effect?
Not really.
Reading here from the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. The doctrine or principle of double effect is often invoked to explain the permissibility of an action that causes a serious harm, such as the death of a human being, as a side effect of promoting some good end.
It is an ethical principle in palliative care. We treat pain. And if in doing so there's a negative side effect, we accept it.
According to the principle of double effect, sometimes it is permissible to cause a harm as an unintended and merely foreseen side effect, or double effect, of bringing about a good result, even though it would not be permissible to cause such a harm as a means to bringing about the same good end, end quote. So in this case, the double effect is we might relieve her of pain, Roxy of pain, and she might die. But like that doesn't mean you shouldn't relieve her of pain, right? Which is a good and worthwhile goal. So anyway, interesting food for thought. I really like how they're handling this subplot, I have to say. There is the case of Brooke and her wife Wendy, a middle-aged woman with sudden onset blindness. She has had 1 hour of sudden painless vision loss in the left eye. Using a very cool retinal scanner, the doctors come to a conclusion that there is a central retinal artery occlusion. And Dr. Al-Hashimi suggests some clot-busting medication, but with a really, really challenging set of statistics, right? So the way it goes is she presents her this very useful diagram where without any treatment, 17% of people get better, but 83% of people experience no change. Whereas with treatment, 37% of people get better, 60% have no change, but 3% get worse. 2% of patients get worse, and 1% have severe disability or death. Brooke decides to get the medication, and Al-Hashimi assigns Mel to oversee it. But yeah, Patrick, I guess I wanted to, like, this is an interesting thought exercise, right? Like, you go blind in one eye, right? And then it's presented to you, hey, do you want to get the treatment? You can go from 17% rate of getting better to 37% getting better, but there's a 1% chance you'll have severe disability or death. Would you take those odds? What do you think? This felt like really hard to me. I was like, wow, that is actually really tough. Like, and it's I would say it's the severe disability part that's like, what does that even look like? You know, like I'd have a lot more questions for Al-Hashimi before like I just went like inject me with a thing. You know,
yeah. What does
Anyway,
severe
go ahead.
disability mean? I mean, that sounds obviously bad, burdensome.
Right.
Wait, so it is get worse? Does she have the possibility of losing sight in both of her eyes, or is it just permanent in the one?
Unclear what that means. Like unclear what severe disability or death mean. Like maybe, right? Like maybe that's part of that.
No, I mean if you don't do anything.
Yeah. That is not a possibility that is discussed. That is not a
okay,
possibility.
because
that's
that I'm trying to think, you know.
But let's say you're you have if you do nothing, you have an 83% chance of the vision in your eye is just permanently gone.
But one eye, just one eye.
One eye.
Just one eye.
But I don't know, Patrick. I mean, eyes are pretty important for your line of work, which is watching TV and also playing video games.
It is, but like I can still do this. I can still do this podcast. I have a cool eye patch.
So are you saying you would decline the meds? You know, like
1% is very unlikely.
Yeah,
but it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. It's way larger than not impossible.
I think. How old do we think the woman is in this situation? 60s,
middle aged. You know, so I would say like probably mid 40s, mid 50s. That's my guess.
Because like age is like an important factor, right? Like the younger you are, the more
use you can get out of the eye.
Yeah,
right?
the more likely I'd be like inclined to give it a shot. The older you are, it's like, all right. I mean, stuff happens to everybody. Like, do you take the chance that like you don't get the last 10 years of your life or whatever, and just deal with the fact that you've lost an eye? Lots of people deal with different ailments or changes to their body. I think I probably end up doing it. I think 1% is pretty rare,
right.
And
you just roll the dice.
Well, and I also wonder, what does 1% mean? So, for example,
right, yeah,
my mom was in a car accident a couple years back and ended up breaking her collarbone, but it was a hairline fracture. Like when I broke my collarbone years and years ago, like shattered. Like someone took a sledgehammer and was like, "Hey, buddy, you don't have a shoulder anymore." Like,
wait, what happened there?
I was biking home in San Francisco. There was an unmarked pothole, and basically my wheel turned 90 degrees and threw all my body weight onto my shoulder. You're gonna break something, break your collarbone. Basically, other than recovery, zero impact on my life going forward. And I was wearing a helmet, so I was fine.
Nice.
But
unlike some people on this show, but yeah.
my mom gets a hairline fracture, and on my dad's side of the family, a lot of folks or a decent number of folks in medical professions. They also have a network of people. So sometimes when we're thinking through a medical question, we will reach out to them to get like off books recommendations on like what we should or shouldn't do. So I reached out to my uncle and I was like, hey, because the doctor told my mom, you have a, like, if this goes untreated, there's a like 99 times out of 100, this heals just fine with just like in a sling, be cool.
Right.
Don't exert yourself. There is like a 1 in 100 chance that, we would have to, and basically what they do if it heals improperly, they have to go in and break your shoulder so that it will heal properly. That's sort of the process. And so there is a 1 out of 100 chance that you're going to recover for a couple of months and then like go through an enormously painful and much worse process. And my mom and I had sort of concluded, I was like, I know you don't want to do the surgery, but that alternate timeline, I know it's 1 out of 100, but you are old. Like that would be an excruciating, like she had other injuries as part of the car crash. Like I'd prefer that you got the surgery. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'd prefer you got it and we eliminate all risk on you having like a whole year that you're dealing with this shoulder. And then it's focused on 3 months. And so we had started to draw that conclusion. We hadn't made like an explicit decision. I said, but let me reach out to, dad's side of the family, reach out to my uncle, got a copy of the x-ray. I was like, could you have, if you know anybody, he's like, oh yeah, one of blah, 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 like good friend, they can look at this. And that person reached out and said, look, it's actually more like 1 in a 10,000 chance.
That they'll need to re-break your collarbone. But like as doctors, when we are providing medical advice, the worst scenario is to give you give you a sense of something that might not, like scale is important. Like risk assessment is important. And so sometimes the numbers change to give you a better sense of what you should or shouldn't do, or just to give you a better way of thinking about it. And if you say 1 in 10,000 chance, and then you're the 1 in 10,000, like you're going to be pretty upset at your doctor, how even if that may be irrational. Whereas 1 in 100 gives a similar sense of scale, but like you can think through the problem a little bit better. And so the doctor's like, no, don't get the surgery. Like it's 1 in 10,000. Like, and so we didn't, and she was fine. But so I say all that to wonder, what does 1% mean? Because that's all I was thinking about in this situation was like, now by 1%, do we mean like like 0.04%, or you know what I mean? Like I don't, maybe that's not the case, but that's all I could think about. Yeah. And something I think about a lot when I think about percentages in terms of medical recommendations. So my answer to that, so I think you would do the medication. I would have a lot more follow-up questions to Dr. Al-Hashimi, which who I'm sure would be able to answer them as like, what is severe disability or death look like? Is it an excruciating death? Like you have a 1% chance of excruciating death. It's like, maybe I'll take the blindness in one eye. I don't know. Like I would have a lot of questions, but I would say I'm inclined to also do the medication. So anyway, all right. Couple of other cases that have been continued from before. There was Alana, the assault victim, who actually comes back in and decides to continue the exam, which I really appreciated seeing. And they complete the exam successfully. But when Dana goes to drop off the kit in the refrigerator, she's incensed to find that the one that's already there, police were supposed to pick up weeks ago. They're supposed to pick it up, I think, within 48 hours or 72 hours. And instead, they've left the previous one there. And it's like, oh, man, like the thing that we saw Dana just do, she had already done that weeks ago. And then the police didn't do shit about it. I think it's a kind of pulpity, preachy moment about, hey, nurses and doctors can do their best and actually do a really good job, but it doesn't really matter if the institutions that are supposed to be functioning, communicating with each other, aren't functioning at their best, right? And it is really sad. So I don't know that anything else is going to come of this subplot, but I thought last week was incredible, like a really emotional, powerful depiction of this process, and this week is kind of just a more like bringing that process to an end, and also like, and here's what it means. Here's the moral of the story, right? So I don't know if you have anything else to say about that, Patrick. But
I thought it was a fitting, like, for a show that is otherwise like pretty optimistic.
Yes,
I do think it's useful every once in a while for the show to ground itself back in the reality of process, which is, I've read plenty of stories, in which like this is incredibly common, like in which kits are not processed or picked up, and to have a show that on one hand spends half an hour showing enormous grace and patience, and then like the next step is like, oh right, this woman has made herself very vulnerable. This victim has made herself very vulnerable, and now it's in like someone's got to come pick that up, and maybe they won't. And I thought that was a fitting end, probably, to that story. Is that it does not, what happens in the pit is not the end of things.
Agreed. By the way, I saw an interview Catherine Lanassa did with, I think she was on the Late Show with Colbert. Great conversation. And it's just mind-blowing to watch Catherine Lanassa speak without her Pitt accent. She's trying to do a Pittsburgh accent in the show. And I just like assumed that's how she spoke. But in fact, she is putting on an accent for the show. It's amazing to see. Speaking of things being relatively bleak, there is the case of Jackson. They bring in a new character to talk with Jackson's parents, and they're told that it could be bipolar or schizophrenia. And she says 20%. She says 20% of people with schizophrenia have a complete recovery, and then the parents respond very reasonably. So that means 80% of people don't. And they're put in this weird situation of quote unquote hoping it's bipolar. Nicole tells them the story of her 20-year-old daughter who developed schizophrenia but still lives a relatively normal life. And I think I appreciate the subplot because I think we associate the idea of the pit mostly with you have a problem, you go in and it gets solved. And sometimes that's not how it happens. Sometimes you go in, you have a problem, it stays with you for the rest of your life, and it's debilitating, and it changes the way you can live, and it changes what your options are. And I think that's what this Jackson subplot is about. So I appreciate like getting that perspective. Of course, like we've seen Jackson very little, so we don't really know what's going on with him yet. But anyway, just wanted to give a shout out for that subplot as well. Patrick, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but yeah.
No, other than they are right that like bipolar is much more like treatable, than schizophrenia.
Manageable.
You don't want, it's not like you're rooting for it, but like
you
kind of are. Like it's just, friends and extended friends treating bipolar is just, you can much more higher chance of a really high quality of life and independent living with bipolar compared to schizophrenia.
Patrick, there are cases that you like to call filler cases. I've identified them this week. There's the case of Jackie Liddell, whose friend Jackie, spelled with a Q, has brought her in. She has a deep tongue laceration. It's really, really gross and upsetting. Like every now and then actually, there's a couple of really upsetting cases this episode. But yes, Langdon is supervising the care. It's very awkward because Santos obviously turned Langdon in last season, and they have a lot of disagreements. They had a lot of like friction last season, and now they're supposed to work together. But it seemed to go off okay. There was no major issues. But yeah, they suture the tongue. It's extremely graphic. Speaking of graphic, this guy comes in with blisters all over his body.
Hi, I'm student Dr. Ogilvy, and this is, wow, that is some rash.
That one was really traumatizing, Patrick. I mean,
a lot of makeup for like 2 shots to just
for like this guy who's in like 2 minutes of the episode. But anyway, turns out he has phytophotodermatitis because it turns out that limes plus sunshine can cause an extreme rash. And without steroids, the blisters can turn into dark scars. I had no idea. I'd never heard of this, Patrick. Have you heard of this?
Me either.
Do not prepare limes out in the sun is something that we learned from the pit this week.
Yeah, I mean, I cut limes pretty frequently for dinner-related stuff, but that's just inside. That's with artificial
Don't do it in
lighting.
the sun, Patrick.
I guess not. I will say, loved the shot of Ogilvy and Javadi, almost like an Avengers team-up shot as they both turn to each other and like, both of us don't know jack shit about what's going on in this case, but they both have, I think, similar, kind of know-it-all personalities.
Right.
And so I think that makes them a very fun team up. And
agreed.
I'd
and it
like
is Kwan that figures it out because she is into pathology and medical mysteries. So I like that she's getting a little more to do this episode.
And also appears to perhaps just be a character that's there to conveniently solve plot problems, which I hope that is not all that character does. But like, I have a photographic memory. Like that. I did not like that as the turnkey solution to that.
Oh, really? Why did you not like that, Patrick?
They're pigeonhole. I just feel like the character is sort of doing one trick over and over again.
Well, she did, she did help out Mohan's patient the other week and so on. Anyway.
She did. I feel like other characters are getting more to do than she is.
Certainly. All right, so there's some other Pitt storylines that are ongoing this episode. One of them is we learn the extremely manual way that all the Pitt people need to do all their intake disorders and discharge. I have to say, kind of interesting. I don't know. It's hard to make paperwork interesting, like they're like, okay, and you got to put the chart in this rack, and then once you're done, put the sticker, and then make it in triplicate with a ballpoint pen. Like what did you? I was like, okay, is that what the show's going to be like? Like how much is going to like? Let me put it a different way. How is the cyber attack going to create interesting human problems in a way that like the Pitt Fest shooting did last season, right? Like, is there, because they're like, oh, human drama of like deciding who lives or dies. Here, it's like, did you put the form in the right place? So I don't know. Did you have any reaction to the sort of hack aftermath?
I'm going to save my comments for our Doctor of the Week.
Doctor of the Week. All right. Well, on that note, we do get a little scene with George, whose D-dimer is back, and turns out everything's normal. George is a character with, who had a blood clot, and he was worried it would go to his brain. By the way, I was really relating, because I think we talked about this, right? I had this huge blood clot that made my left arm swell up like Thanos, and I was pretty freaked out about that thing going into my head. But I took Eliquis just like George did in the show, and everything was normal. But it basically leads into Mohan talking with Dr. Al-Hashimi. She's thinking of fellowship in ultrasound toxicology or sports medicine. Basically, she has no idea what she wants, and Dr. Al-Hashimi recommends working with the geriatric care, because she seems to be very good at it. So, hey, maybe that'll be good for her. There is the story of Dr. Mel's deposition. We get an explanation of what's going on there. It turns out the mother of the measles kid from last season is suing the hospital because she says that the spinal tap that he received was defective and caused him to suffer intellectually. So it's a complete bullshit, frivolous case. And Dr. Mel has nothing to worry about, essentially, is what we learn. This happens in the same week. There is a headline in The Independent and many other places. Mom of 7-year-old hospitalized with brain swelling from measles. I still wouldn't have given my son the vaccine, end quote. This is from South Carolina. Parents living in the state's measles epicenter talk about their devastation after their unvaccinated 7-year-old son, Ethan, developed encephalitis, a complication from the virus that causes swelling and inflammation of the brain. Sadly, this is an extremely relevant subplot in today's America, where measles cases have exploded in multiple areas around the country. When the measles case happened last season, it was like kind of just starting to creep in, and now it's like full blown. People, like kids, are suffering horribly, permanently disabled, dying from measles now, and it's super sad and tragic. Patrick, any reaction to any of this?
I kind of need this deposition to happen. Like, we heard a lot about this deposition, and this character's had nothing to do this season other than worry about the deposition, and I would really like this deposition to happen so this really wonderful actor could do something more than just looking worried about the deposition. Feels like this character is spinning their wheels until this happens, and at this course, what they're saying, it's several hours, so we're looking at 3 or 4 episodes, something like that, before we actually get to that. And there's not a lot left for like the Pitt season 2. So I thought it was interesting to set her up for attention like this, but it seems to have come at the expense of kind of doing too much more this season.
I didn't think I'm not even sure we're going to see the deposition this season. Like, that was my assumption.
Well, there's no way to see it because if she leaves, then she goes upstairs. The cameras don't follow. Like, the farthest the cameras go are to the elevator.
Yeah.
but we don't see them get off at like a different part of the elevator and to the front and the back.
This does raise an issue that many people have had with the Pit over the course of the last week, which is realizing how much stuff is happening on July 4th. Like the people getting injured, a lot of those things make sense. Preparing limes for party, or getting hurt at a party or whatever, or getting hurt while balancing a motorcycle on the July 4th thing, those all make sense. But there's a lot of other things that don't really make sense. Like, would there be a deposition on July 4th? Sometimes, some lawyer firms work, but there's some people who are like, oh, I got to get back to work. Like, you gotta heal me up so I can get back to work. Who is working on July 4th? What's going on here? Anyway, something to keep an eye on as we continue through the rest of the show. Couple other final things. We got to look at the baby who has rhinovirus, but no serious bacterial infection. They're in the process of figuring out what to do with the baby. Patrick, I know this is your favorite subplot, so I'm not even going to ask you to comment on it.
Nope.
But
Get back to me when something happens.
But Patrick, Robbie's friend Duke was supposed to show up, and he didn't.
Duke.
So I wonder what's going to happen with him. So a lot of people have been predicting Robbie is going to get horribly injured on his motorcycle this season. But it's very likely that Robbie's going to be okay, and it's Duke that's going to get things head on. I think that's very possible. What do you think? How likely is it that Duke's going to show up one of the next 3 episodes in a horrible state? I say 95%. That's my guess.
No. Dr. Robbie is going to go on a spiritual journey for several months on his bike, and he's going to have a great time. That's what's going to happen.
Are you serious?
No, but I'm willing it into the world.
I see. Yeah, Duke is doomed. Duke is doomed, I think, is where we're going. All right. And I think that is most of the stuff that happened in this episode of The Pit. So, Patrick, let's end each week, as we like to, by covering a medical worker of the week. Patrick, who's your medical worker of the week?
It's Princess. It's Princess. Because look, it's Princess. Look, as somebody that's done a lot of editing work, and even at like Remap, the company I co-founded, it's a lot of like just like doing due diligence on like little things behind the scenes. The shit doesn't happen unless you got one of those people. They're annoying. Yes. They're boring. They're checking your work. Why didn't this publish when this was supposed to publish? You said you were supposed to mark this. It's going to be scheduled for this. Those people are important. And they bug you.
I think she didn't even want that role.
Princess has charge nurse experience.
Not really.
Great idea. Princess it is. You can make the nursing assignments.
Next. Central 9.
Right? She didn't even want it.
I got into this line of work to write, to report. I'm out here doing CMS work, David, because somebody's got to do it. Otherwise, everything's not going to function. I just think underrated part. Everyone's annoyed. She's pointing out the mistakes. Why didn't you use the felt? Well, like using this pen? You using this pen, motherfucker? Like use it. Like someone's got to do it.
She rises to the occasion as the charge nurse because Dana is dealing with the assault victim, right? So she has to become the new charge nurse. She doesn't want to do it, and she does it. And so there you go.
Got to step up.
She steps up, and everyone is better off for it. Great choice, Patrick Klepek. My medical worker of the week is, I'm going to say, a combo of like Robbie and Abbott dealing with the Howard Knox case, right? I think they handle that case and doing the intubation. I think it's Abbott that actually does the intubation, if I'm not mistaken. But the way in which they handle that case methodically, with care, compassion, and really just patience in trying to help this guy deal with one of the most challenging situations he's ever going to deal with, and allowing him to retain as much dignity as possible during that process. I think, and the way in which Abbott just kind of jumps in, it's really Abbott. That's really like my guy for this week. He just jumps in and he's like, I'm going to go with him to do the CT and it's all going to be fine. I thought it was very lovely the way they handled the Knox case. So that's why Abbott primarily, and then secondarily Robbie, who also dealt with that case, my medical worker of the week. All right. Let us know what you thought of the episode.
Hold on. I have one more thing. Okay.
Yep.
So some people may consider this, we do not see future episodes. I've not seen the rest of the Pit.
Yes.
But I want to at least premise this with that if for some reason you might consider the speculation,
right,
a spoiler, it's all going to make sense when I outline what I'm about to say. But like, if you're worried, we have no further information, but I am going to speculate in a way that is sort of weird. And if you don't want to hear that, skip ahead.
Okay.
Finish the episode.
All right.
But when we have these conversations about the Pit, they just keep track of all the characters. I always have IMDb open, so I can see everyone's names and the actors, and I can click around. All of our main characters are listed on IMDb as having starred in 30 episodes of The Pit.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Robbie is listed as being in 31.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's 15 episodes a season, right?
Yeah, what does that mean?
I think that's just an error, or are you sure it's like that's under the actor part? Because he also like directed an episode.
31, but he's directed multiple episodes.
Yeah.
It's just a little weird. It's a little weird.
Okay, Patrick, what do you think? What do you think it means?
I'm hoping that at the end they're gonna break set and they're gonna follow like an episode of him going on his spiritual journey, and we're gonna follow him and we're gonna leave the Pit. That's what I'm putting my money on.
There's gonna be a Pit after school special, holiday special.
Yes, basically.
And the holiday is Easter, I guess.
Whatever. Don't worry about it. It might be an error, but every time I go to IMDb, I see that. I'm like, what the fuck is up with that 31 episodes? And it makes me think they're getting ready to throw some sort of weird curveball with the Pit.
Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.